He hasn't said a word, but you can feel it, can't you? The silence isn't cold anymore. It's sacred. The distance isn't avoidance. It's alignment. And the ache in your chest has shifted into peace. Because something has changed. Not in the physical, but in the field. He's no longer running to escape you. He's slowing down to return to himself. And when the divine masculine begins to face his own reflection, the reunion begins. Not with a text, not with a sudden visit, but with a shift in energy so clear, so deep, that your soul knows he's finally ready. Comment, "I can feel the reunion coming," if your heart has sensed this sacred return. Your truth may be the confirmation someone else has been praying for. The divine masculine doesn't always return with grand gestures. He doesn't announce it with fireworks or poetry. He returns in silence. He returns in energy. He returns when his soul can no longer deny the pull of love that's been patiently waiting, not outside of him, but within. You may not have heard from him in weeks. He may still be with someone else, or caught in the illusion of a life that feels safe but not alive. And yet, your heart knows. Something has changed. It's not in his words. It's not in his actions. It's in the frequency. The divine feminine feels it before anything becomes visible. She senses the softening in his field, the way his resistance starts to melt, the way the anger fades, the way the tension loosens. Have you been feeling waves of emotion that aren't even yours? Sudden warmth in your heart out of nowhere? Have you caught yourself whispering his name in your thoughts, only to feel his presence before you fall asleep? That's not your imagination, that's resonance. He's waking up, not just to the connection, but to himself. And when the masculine starts seeing through the illusions, he starts remembering the feminine. But before he reaches out, he listens to the silence, to the space between thoughts, to the subtle messages his spirit has long ignored. He starts noticing the emptiness around him, the shallow conversations, the relationships that look perfect but feel lifeless, the roles he's been playing just to survive. And in that discomfort, he remembers you, not as an idea, not as a fantasy, but as home. Not a home that waits on a pedestal, but a home that lives in truth, in frequency, in embodiment. You are no longer just a mirror for his potential. You are now a beacon of what he can become. And that's what draws him in. Not your waiting, not your messages, not your tears, but your alignment. He feels your calm. He senses your sovereignty. and something in him whispers, "You're safe now." She's not holding on to you. She's holding herself. That's when the reunion begins. In the moment, he realizes that love isn't something he has to earn. It's something he has to remember. So if he hasn't spoken, but you've felt waves of warmth, flashes of clarity, moments of connection through the veil, trust it. He's not ignoring you. He's listening, he's preparing, he's transforming, and that transformation doesn't start with action. It starts with permission. Permission to feel again. Permission to hope again. Permission to love again without the fear of failing you. Because the divine masculine doesn't just come back when he misses you. He comes back when he's ready to be met. Fully, openly, fearlessly. And that readiness begins long before the first word is spoken. It begins in his silence, in his stillness, in the moment he lets himself admit, "I'm not running anymore." That's when the timeline shifts. That's when the reunion starts moving from dream to reality. Before the divine masculine takes a single step toward you, his heart begins to tremble. Not from fear of you, but from fear of himself, of what he might feel, of what he might lose, of what he might finally have to face. Awakening doesn't look like confidence at first. It looks like confusion, tears he doesn't understand, anger that rises for no reason, memories he thought were buried coming back in waves. If you felt an emotional intensity in the air, as if his soul is screaming without sound, you're not imagining it. He's waking up, and with awakening comes grief, not for you, but for everything he became in order to survive without you. He's grieving the masks, the lies, the patterns, the love he pushed away, the softness he buried, the tenderness he rejected in himself, because he was taught it made him weak. This grief doesn't show up in a way you can always see, but you can feel it. Have you ever suddenly felt his sadness at random moments? Have you ever burst into tears without a clear reason, only to realize your heart was responding to his? That's the divine connection. That's the energetic thread. That's his soul releasing its resistance, one wave at a time. He may not message you. He may not apologize. He may still pretend nothing's happening, but you know, because the feminine always knows. His energy starts fluctuating. Sometimes you feel him intensely, then he disappears again. But this time, it's not about running, it's about processing. He's learning how to feel, how to sit with pain, how to hold space for guilt, shame, regret, and not collapse under the weight of it. This is one of the clearest signs of his awakening. He stops blaming. He starts feeling. And in that sacred unraveling, something profound begins to shift. He no longer sees your love as a threat. He starts to see it as a mirror that reflects the parts of him he tried to hide, and the parts he never knew were worthy of love. That reflection is not always easy to face. That's why he retreats. That's why he seems hot and cold. That's why you feel him and then you don't. He's walking through his inner fire, and fire doesn't destroy him. It purifies. So if you've been asking yourself, why do I feel so connected to him right now, even in the silence? Why is he in my dreams again? Why does his energy feel raw, vulnerable, real? It's because the armor is cracking, not all at once, but piece by piece. And every piece that falls away makes room for something new: clarity, presence, truth. This is the emotional signature of his return. It's not about making a move. It's about learning how to feel without fleeing. He's learning how to let the storm pass without shutting down. How to stay present without running back to distractions. How to feel the pull of your soul without collapsing into fear. This is the holy labor of the masculine. Not to pursue, but to prepare. Not to conquer, but to soften. And the feminine, she doesn't force it. She doesn't demand it. She simply holds her energy steady. So when he rises into a space that won't shake under the weight of his truth. Because reunion doesn't begin when he knocks on your door. It begins when he no longer avoids his own heart. The most misunderstood phase in the twin flame journey is the silence. We tend to fear it, question it, interpret it as rejection. But silence is not absence. It's a recalibration. When the divine masculine goes quiet, not in anger, not in avoidance, but in stillness, it means something sacred is unfolding. He is listening to his breath, to his emotions, to the voice he spent years muting inside of him. And in that silence, he begins to prepare. He doesn't prepare for you with plans, rehearsed speeches, or declarations. He prepares by shedding beliefs about love, shedding guilt he didn't even know he carried, shedding the identity he built around what he thought a man was supposed to be. And every time he steps deeper into that stillness, he meets himself. It is not a comfortable place. He meets the boy who was told to stay strong, the teenager who broke down in secret, the man who chased approval because he didn't know how to accept himself. This silence isn't cold, it's sacred. It's the cocoon before transformation. Have you noticed moments when you stop needing answers from him? When your own energy starts to feel whole without validation? That is not disconnection. That is soul alignment. Because the silence on his end is mirrored by sovereignty on yours. And the more stable your frequency becomes, the more sacred his preparation feels. He's not ghosting, he's grounding. He's remembering what love felt like before it became transactional, before it had rules, before it meant sacrificing parts of himself. He's releasing the idea that love is pain, that desire is danger, that connection is a trap. This is the divine work happening beneath the surface, unseen, but not unfelt. Have you sensed a stillness in your field that feels oddly full? A silence that no longer feels empty, but magnetic? A peace that wraps around your chest when you think of him? That's the preparation. It's when both souls start moving toward each other energetically, before the mind can understand what's happening. And when the silence deepens, so does the trust. Trust that nothing is truly lost. Trust that the connection is being nurtured in ways you cannot control. Trust that your own healing is the invitation he needs to face his own. Because the divine feminine doesn't just wait, she holds space. And in that space, he finds the courage to grow. It doesn't look like romance. It looks like responsibility. It looks like a man learning how to feel anger without violence, sadness without shame, love without fear. And when that moment comes, when he finally emerges from the silence, when he finally looks into your eyes with no masks, no games, no pretense, it won't be because he missed you. It'll be because he remembered who he was in your presence. And he'll return not to rescue you or to be rescued, but to meet you as an equal. Two souls, two mirrors, two frequencies no longer resisting the pull of sacred union. So if you're in the silence now, don't fill it with noise. Don't chase it with fear. Feel it, honor it, let it speak, because it's not the end. It's the preparation for the beginning that will never need to end. The moment the divine masculine begins to awaken, something subtle yet irreversible occurs. He stops reacting to the external and starts responding to your frequency. He doesn't copy your words. He doesn't mimic your actions. He mirrors your essence. Because once the feminine has anchored into her truth, into her softness that does not shrink, her strength that does not harden, her love that does not cling, she becomes a sacred signal. And the masculine, even without fully understanding, hears that signal through every layer of his being. He doesn't always know how to name it, but he feels drawn to it, not with obsession, but with reverence. At first, it shows up in tiny shifts. He pauses before reacting. He questions beliefs that once felt unquestionable. He listens more. He observes his own patterns with less shame and more curiosity. Have you noticed moments when his energy feels clearer? When the chaos around him no longer seems to own him? When he speaks fewer words, but carries more presence? That's the mirroring, not of your personality, but of your frequency. Because the feminine's greatest gift is not what she says or does, but who she chooses to be in her own field. And when that field is no longer wrapped in waiting or needing, but rooted in being, the masculine feels it, not as pressure, but as permission. Permission to drop the mask, permission to explore his own depth, permission to stop striving and start softening. That is when he begins to reflect the truth you've been holding all along. He starts to value silence. He finds beauty in slowness. He seeks meaning in connection, not distraction. But here's what's important. He doesn't become you. He doesn't transform into a mirror image of the feminine. He becomes more of himself. Because your energy doesn't shape him, it awakens him. Awakens him to a version of his own masculine truth that isn't distorted by ego, competition, or dominance. It's sacred, steady, spacious, and in that sacred masculine, he starts to feel safe in your presence, not because you are giving him what he wants, but because you are holding your own light so clearly that he remembers he has one too. Have you ever looked into his eyes and felt, just for a second, that he was seeing you beyond the surface? Have you felt a moment when he stopped performing and simply allowed himself to be? These are the signs that he's not just coming back. He's realigning, not to your version of love, but to the truth of what love was always meant to be. And this alignment doesn't require words. It's in the way he stays in the room with his own discomfort, the way he admits he doesn't have all the answers, the way he allows softness to guide his next step. This is not a performance, it's an emergence. And it only happens when the feminine stops asking for him to become and starts being what she already is. The mirror of unconditional love, not a love that tolerates anything, but a love that holds truth so deeply it becomes impossible to pretend. He mirrors you because you stopped mirroring his chaos. He follows truth because you became truth. And in this sacred exchange, union begins. Not when he returns to your door, but when he returns to his soul. Because that's where you've always been. Not all signs come in lightning strikes. Some come in coffee cups, in street names, in random songs that play at just the right time. The closer union gets, the quieter the signs become, but the more precise they feel, because the universe stops shouting when you start listening. When the divine masculine is nearing reunion, the synchronicities aren't loud. They're intimate, personal, encoded into his everyday life in ways only his soul can truly decode. He begins to notice things he never did before, not because the signs weren't there, but because now he's ready to see them. He glances at the clock, 11:11, again and again. A car drives past playing that one song that always reminds him of you, the one he told himself he had forgotten. He opens a book at random and lands on a line that sounds like your last conversation. A friend says your name in a story that has nothing to do with you, or he dreams of you two standing in a place he's never been, only to walk past that exact location days later. At first, he doubts himself. Coincidence, he thinks. But his body knows better. He gets chills. His chest tightens. He feels something pulling, not outside of him, but within. Because these aren't coincidences. They're reminders. Reminders of the truth he tried to suppress, of the love he tried to control, of the destiny he tried to delay, but couldn't erase. Have you ever felt your own signs intensify when you stop chasing them? That's the same for him now. He's not hunting answers, but they're finding him, because energy seeks readiness, and he is becoming ready. That's why the universe begins weaving you into the fabric of his ordinary moments. Not to confuse him, but to confirm him. It's the universe whispering, "She's still here. Keep going. You're closer than you think." And here's the secret. These synchronicities aren't just for him. You feel them too. You think of him, and he texts. You sense a shift and see his initials. You dream of a reunion and hear your song on the radio. This is mutual magnetism, a vibrational convergence that transcends words, time, or logic. It's your souls rehearsing the return before your minds can catch up. So don't ignore the subtle signs. The flicker of energy when you hear his name, the sudden peace that washes over you at 3 a.m. The mirror numbers, the flashes of memory, the inexplicable tears. They are all saying the same thing. It's coming. And not because you forced it, but because you're finally both resonating on the same frequency. The divine masculine no longer dismisses signs as fantasy. He feels them as alignment. The divine feminine no longer clings to signs in desperation. She welcomes them as confirmation. And in this dance of daily synchronicity, the veil between you grows thinner until one day it's no longer there. That's the power of divine reunion. It doesn't arrive with noise, but with the soft thunder of 100 quiet signs that all pointed to one truth. You've always been coming back to each other. At the very end of the twin flame journey, not the end of love, but the end of the resistance to it, there's a frequency that no longer vibrates in need or urgency or seeking. It's quiet, expansive, liberating. It's the frequency of love without fear and reunion without force. This is the final activation, and it can't be rushed, begged for, or manipulated. It only comes when both souls are ready to carry love, not as an escape, but as a responsibility of truth. When the divine masculine reaches this state, he no longer runs, not because fear is gone completely, but because courage has become stronger than fear. He no longer approaches love as something to survive, but as something to honor. He no longer sees the divine feminine as a mirror of his inadequacy, but as the safest place he has ever encountered. And that changes everything. He doesn't come back with a performance. He returns with presence. He doesn't arrive needing you to reassure him. He arrives knowing who he is. Not perfect, not complete, but whole enough to hold you without projecting his pain. And you, divine feminine, you no longer wait with anxiety in your chest. You don't wonder if you're too much or not enough. You don't ask, will he love me back? Because your love no longer needs approval to exist. You love because it's who you are, and that's what calls him home. This final activation begins the moment neither of you needs to be saved, and both of you are ready to be real. It's not about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you are. When that happens, the universe rearranges everything. Timelines collapse, blocks dissolve, resistance fades, because love is no longer pushing or pulling, it's simply being. Have you ever felt that shift in your heart? The one where you stop waiting, not because you gave up, but because something deep inside whispered, he's coming when it's real, and I will still be here without losing myself. That's the portal. That's when the divine masculine feels the change. He no longer feels pressure when he thinks of you. He feels peace. He no longer sees your strength as a threat. He sees it as sacred, because you no longer need to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. And that energy is magnetic. That energy doesn't chase, it doesn't beg, it doesn't perform. It simply radiates, and it draws in everything that was always meant for it. Final activation doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like silence that finally feels safe, like a message sent with no expectations, like an encounter that feels ancient and new all at once. It's the moment when he looks into your eyes and doesn't flinch, because he sees the truth of himself in them. And for the first time, he doesn't run, because he no longer needs to. The pain has served its purpose. The separation has taught its lessons, and the longing has matured into presence. So when he finally says, "I'm here," it won't be from a place of fear of losing you, but from the knowing that you've never truly been apart. This is love without fear. This is reunion without force. This is what happens when two souls remember that they were never meant to complete each other, but to awaken each other, rise together, and become one in frequency, before becoming one in form. And when this happens, no words are needed, only truth.